The Beatles have released their last song called Now and Then. It was written by John Lennon. Other Beatles members added to it over the years. Engineers used AI to bring the song to life. It sounds like the Beatles recorded it in a studio. The song has been released as a single. The other side of the single is a new mix of 1962's Love Me Do. Now and Then is the final track on a new edition of the Beatles' Greatest Hits Blue album. Paul McCartney said recording the new song was emotional. He said, "It's a genuine Beatles recording." He added, "To release a new song in 2023 the public haven't heard is an exciting thing." McCartney said John Lennon's voice was crystal clear. Lennon was shot dead by a fan in 1980. Beatles drummer Ringo Starr said the song was the closest we'll ever come to having John Lennon back in the room.
The Beatles have released the last song they recorded. The song is titled Now and Then. It was written by John Lennon in 1977. He sang it at the piano and recorded it in 1979 at his home. The other Beatles added to the track over the years. Recording engineers used AI technology to bring the song to life, resulting in a sound like the four Beatles recorded it together in a studio. The song has been released as a double A-side single. The flip side of the record is a new mix of the band's first single, Love Me Do. This was first released in 1962. Now and Then will also be the final track on a new edition of the Beatles' legendary Greatest Hits Blue album. This is a collection of their classics from 1967 to 1970. Beatles member Paul McCartney spoke to reporters about the new song. He said, "It's quite emotional, and we all play on it. It's a genuine Beatles recording." He spoke about his excitement at being able to release a new song, saying, "In 2023, to still be working on Beatles music and to release a new song the public haven't heard, I think that's an exciting thing." McCartney was also excited about hearing John Lennon's voice. He said it was crystal clear. Lennon was shot dead by a fan outside his New York home in 1980. Beatles drummer Ringo Starr said recording the song was the closest we'll ever come to having John Lennon back in the room. He said it was very emotional for all of us. This is Elsa reporting from Vancouver, Canada.
Scientists have found that fructose is a big cause of obesity. Fructose is a fruit sugar. It is also used to make high fructose corn syrup, which causes obesity. Researchers found that fructose isn't the biggest source of calories, but it makes us want to eat fatty food. They suggested we change what we eat. They said we need to cut down on junk food. They also said we should think about reducing our fructose intake. The researchers looked at all known causes of obesity. They found that the body converting fructose into energy reduces levels of a compound called ATP. When ATP falls, we eat more. A researcher said fructose makes our metabolism go into low power mode and we lose control of appetite. Scientists believe that high amounts of fructose lead to health issues. The most common of these is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Scientists have discovered that fructose, a naturally occurring sugar, is a major driver of obesity. Fructose is also known as fruit sugar. It occurs to varying degrees in fruit and vegetables. It is also used in processed form in high fructose corn syrup, which is in a lot of food we eat, and promotes obesity. A study led by Dr. Richard Johnson at the University of Colorado found that although fructose isn't the biggest source of calorific intake, it stimulates an urge to eat fattier food. Researchers posited a shift of focus on what we eat. They wrote, All hypotheses recognize the importance of reducing junk foods. However, it remains unclear whether the focus should be on reducing fructose intake. Dr. Johnson and his colleagues conducted an exhaustive study of all known contributors to obesity. They found that the process of our body converting fructose into energy causes a drop in the levels of a compound called ATP. When ATP falls, our body tells us to eat more. Researchers call this process the fructose survival hypothesis. Johnson said, fructose is what triggers our metabolism to go into low power mode and lose our control of appetite. But fatty foods become the major source of calories that drive weight gain. Scientists have attributed the consumption of high amounts of fructose to health issues. The most common of these is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Tai Chi could slow down Parkinson's disease. Researchers say Tai Chi could slow the progression of Parkinson's disease by years. Tai Chi is known to benefit physical and mental health. A study from a university in Shanghai found that Parkinson's progressed at a slower rate in people who practiced Tai Chi. Researchers observed fewer falls and less dizziness in those who did Tai Chi. Moreover, the cognitive function of Tai Chi practitioners worsened more slowly. Parkinson's is a disorder that affects the nerves and muscles. It causes uncontrollable movements and difficulty with balance and coordination. A famous person with Parkinson's was the heavyweight boxer Muhammad Ali. The researchers said Tai Chi could keep Parkinson's at bay for years. They said the long-term beneficial effect of Tai Chi could prolong the time without disability, leading to a higher quality of life.
Tai Chi could slow down Parkinson's disease. Researchers have found that the Chinese martial art of Tai Chi could slow down the progression of Parkinson's disease by years. Tai Chi, with its slow, meditative, and deliberate movements, is known to benefit physical and mental well-being. Doctors from the Shanghai Jiao Tong University School of Medicine conducted a 5-year study on people with Parkinson's. The researchers discovered that the condition progressed at a slower rate in those who practiced Tai Chi. They observed fewer falls and less dizziness and back pain in the Tai Chi practitioners. The researchers also noted that the cognitive function of the test participants who regularly practiced Tai Chi deteriorated more slowly. Parkinson's disease is a brain disorder that affects the nerves and muscles. It progressively causes unintended or uncontrollable movements such as shaking, stiffness, and difficulty with balance and coordination. People with Parkinson's may eventually have difficulties walking and talking. One of the most famous people with Parkinson's was the heavyweight boxing champion Muhammad Ali. The researchers suggest that doing Tai Chi could keep symptoms of Parkinson's at bay for years. They said the long-term beneficial effect of Tai Chi on Parkinson's could prolong the time without disability, leading to a higher quality of life, a lower burden for caregivers, and a reduction in drug use.
Scientists make biocomputer with brain tissue. Humans and machines are closer to merging. Researchers have built a biocomputer. They combined lab-grown brain tissue with electrodes. They called their creation BrainOware. It is in its early stages, but can already do complex tasks like voice recognition. The software could improve AI technology. AI hardware will also require less energy than silicon chips. A researcher said, "This is just proof of concept to show that we can do the job." BrainAware utilizes organoids, artificially grown bundles of tissue that act like an organ. BrainAware organoids have developed neurons, like those in our brain. The next step is to look at how BrainAware can perform higher-level tasks. The technology could help neuroscience research. It could also lead to cures for neurological diseases. A major challenge is to find answers to keep the living tissue alive for longer.
Scientists make biocomputer with brain tissue. The merging of human and machine has taken another step forward as researchers have built a biocomputer. Bioengineers at the University of Indiana in the USA have combined laboratory-grown human brain tissue with microelectrodes. The scientists have dubbed their creation BrainAware. It is in its embryonic stage of development, but it can already perform complex tasks such as voice recognition. Lead researcher Dr. Feng Guo hopes his softer-than-usual software will help to advance AI technologies. It could also mean AI hardware uses far less energy than solely using silicon chips. Dr. Guo said, "This is just proof of concept to show that we can do the job. We still have a long way to go." The researchers said their BrainAware system utilizes organoids. These are artificially grown bundles of tissue and stem cells that resemble an organ. Dr. Guo said his team's organoids are like mini brains. They have transformed and developed neurons akin to those found in the human brain. The researchers say their next step is to investigate how BrainAware can be adapted to undertake higher-level tasks. The technology could one day be used to create improved models of the brain and move neuroscience research forward. It could also lead to cures for neurological diseases. One major challenge for the researchers is to find solutions for how to keep the living tissue alive.
Scientists say early risers have Neanderthal genes. Early risers naturally wake up early because of their body clock. Most people are still in deep sleep. Researchers said early risers share DNA with Neanderthals, our ancestors from 40,000 years ago. They lived in northern Europe and Asia. They woke up earlier to gather food as the sun rose. A researcher said our body clock can change with the light of different seasons. He said a faster body clock makes people more likely to rise early. The researchers looked at genetic information to find out why some people are early birds and others are night owls. The early birds shared DNA with Neanderthals. However, the effect of the Neanderthal DNA may be weakening as time passes. Our modern lifestyles mean many of us prefer to sleep in and not get up. Nevertheless, it may still be true that the early bird catches the worm.
Scientists say early risers have Neanderthal genes. Early risers are people who naturally wake up early in the morning. Their body clock causes them to get up while most of us are still in deep sleep. Researchers at the University of California said early risers could have some shared DNA from Neanderthals, our ancestors who lived over 40,000 years ago. Neanderthals lived in northern parts of Europe and Asia. They woke up earlier to hunt for or gather food as the sun rose. Researcher Dr. Tony Capra said, "At higher latitudes, it is beneficial to have a body clock that is better able to anticipate and change to match the changing seasonal light levels." He added, "Having a faster body clock makes individuals more likely to rise early." Scientists have spent a long time looking at why some people are early birds, while others are night owls. They looked at a medical database with genetic information for hundreds of thousands of people. They compared the DNA of people who said they were early risers with the Neanderthal DNA. Their research found more examples of Neanderthal DNA existed in the early risers. However, it is likely that the Neanderthal gene is not so strong in many people. The effect of the Neanderthal DNA may be weakening as the centuries pass. Our modern lifestyles mean many of us prefer sleeping in to leaving the comfort of our bed. Nevertheless, it may still be true that the early bird catches the worm.
Argentina's president warns of economic shock treatment. Argentina's new president has promised to turn around his country's poor economy. Javier Milei said he would cut inflation, which is around 140%. He also wants to cut the public debt. In his first speech as president, he said the economy needed shock treatment because there is no money left. Previous governments spent too much. He warned people that life would be tough for a few years. People will have to live in austerity. Javier Milei is a far-right politician. Many people compare him to Donald Trump. During Milei's election campaign, he carried a chainsaw to show he would cut spending. He said, "In the short term, the situation will worsen, but then we will see the fruits of our efforts." His election victory was a surprise. He called it a turning point in Argentina's history. He wants to limit abortion rights and relax gun laws. He does not believe in climate change.
Argentina's president warns of economic shock treatment. Argentina has a new president. His name is Javier Milei. He was a surprise winner of the country's election in November. Mr. Milei has promised to turn around Argentina's poor economy. In particular, he said he would cut inflation, which is currently around 140%. He also wants to slash the public debt. Argentina has borrowed a lot of money in the past few decades. Mr. Milei wants to start repaying it. In his first speech as president, he said the economy needed shock treatment to recover. He said previous governments had spent too much and that there is no money left. He warned Argentinians that life would be tough for a few years. He said people would have to live in austerity to help the economy. Javier Milei is different from any politician Argentina has seen before. He is a far-right politician. Many people say he is similar to former U.S. President Donald Trump and former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro. During Milei's election campaign, he was often seen with a chainsaw. He wanted people to know he would make many spending cuts to the economy. He called his election victory a turning point in Argentina's history, like the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. He has promised to limit abortion rights and relax gun laws. He has also upset environmentalists because he does not believe in climate change. He said, "We know that in the short term, the situation will worsen, but then we will see the fruits of our efforts."
Jeff Bezos wants 1 trillion humans in solar system. Demographers are worried about overpopulation, but Amazon founder Jeff Bezos wants to populate our solar system. He hopes that in 1,000 years' time, 1 trillion humans would be living in the solar system. He said if that happened, we would have, at any given time, 1,000 Mozarts and 1,000 Einsteins. Space would be full of life and intelligence. He wants to build the infrastructure that space entrepreneurs will use in the future. Elon Musk agrees with Mr. Bezos. He said, "We want to be a multi-planet species." He warned that population collapse due to low birth rates is a bigger risk to civilization than global warming. Bezos said people would live in giant space stations and would visit Earth for vacations. He thinks Earth's environment will be pristine again because of factories built in space. He said they could get resources from asteroids instead of from Earth.
Jeff Bezos wants 1 trillion humans in our solar system. Just when demographers are ringing alarm bells about overpopulation, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos says we need to populate our solar system. Mr. Bezos was asked for his thoughts on humanity living in outer space in 1,000 years' time. He replied, "I would love to see, 1 trillion humans living in the solar system. If we had 1 trillion humans, we would have at any given time 1,000 Mozarts and 1,000 Einsteins. Space would be full of life and intelligence and energy." He added that he wants to help build heavy infrastructure that will be used by space entrepreneurs of future generations, so that ingenuity and imagination can really be unleashed. Mr. Bezos' thoughts are echoed by fellow multi-billionaire Elon Musk, owner of X, formerly known as Twitter. In 2021, he said of the human race, "We don't want to be one of those single-planet species. We want to be multi-planet species." Earlier this year, Mr. Musk warned that population collapse due to low birth rates is a much bigger risk to civilization than global warming. Mark these words. Mr. Bezos conceives of people living in giant space stations. He said most inhabitants of these would visit Earth for vacation. He envisions our planet returning to its pristine environment, as factories would be built in space. He said they would exploit resources on the moon or on asteroids instead of using up Earth's.
Better weight loss drugs predicted for 2024. A New Year resolution is to lose weight. People could do this in 2024 because of new injectable drugs. The drugs have been effective in helping people shed weight. The drugs.com website said extensive studies of patients using a drug called Wegovy showed that 83% of people lost 5% or more of their weight, compared to 31% of those taking a placebo. A cardiologist said obesity drugs are here to stay. Industry experts said the new remedies were significant. The journal Science said they were medicine's breakthrough of 2023. This year could be even better for overweight people. A new drug called Zepbound has helped people lose an average of 20 to 25% of their weight. An obesity specialist said the new drugs were amazing since they address the underlying physiological cause of weight regain. Better weight loss drugs predicted for 2024. One of the most common New Year resolutions is to lose weight. Weight loss could be a more achievable prospect in 2024 because of recently improved injectable drugs that have proven to be particularly effective in helping people shed the kilos, or pounds. They belong to a class of medications called GLP-1. The most well-known of these are Wegovy and Ozempic. The drugs.com website reported that in extensive studies of patients using Wegovy, 83% of participants lost 5% or more of their weight, compared to 31% of those taking a placebo. A cardiologist at the Mayo Clinic said obesity drugs are here to stay, and that more and more of these drugs are coming to the market. The significance of the new remedies has been highlighted by industry experts. The prestigious journal Science declared the family of weight loss drugs to be medicine's breakthrough of the year for 2023. This year could prove to be even better for overweight people and for those who find exercising difficult. A new drug called Zepbound has been approved. In clinical trials, people taking this lost an average of 20 to 25% of their weight. Obesity specialist Dr. Giuliana Simonetti said the new drugs were amazing since they address the underlying physiological cause of weight regain. She added, "I've been working in this field over the last decade, and the results are very impressive." Scientists talk with a whale for 20 minutes. Scientists have had a chat with a humpback whale. The scientists are from 3 different organizations. The whale is named Twain. They spoke to her in humpback language for 20 minutes. The scientists sent a contact call into the ocean. Twain heard the call. She then swam to the research boat and chatted. A researcher said it was the first ever chat between humans and humpback whales. The chat with Twain was like lots of greetings. Whales use contact calls so other whales know where they are. The scientists made 36 calls in 20 minutes. Twain answered each call by calling back at the same intervals. A scientist said her research could make it easier to talk to aliens. She said, "We can better understand what an alien intelligence might be like, because they are not going to be exactly like ours."
Scientists talk with a whale for 20 minutes. Scientists say they have had a conversation with a whale. They also say the chat could help them to one day talk to aliens. The scientists are from the University of California, the Alaska Whale Foundation, and SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. The 3 organizations have teamed up and spoke to a humpback whale named Twain. They spoke to her in humpback language for 20 minutes. Their conversation took place after the scientists sent a contact call into the ocean off the coast of Alaska. Twain heard this call and responded. She swam to the research boat and chatted. SETI said it was the first ever communication between humans and humpback whales. The scientists say their conversation with Twain was not a deep one. Professor Brenda McCowan said it was more like a series of greetings. Whales use contact calls to let other whales know where they are. The scientist made the same call 36 times over a 20-minute period. Each time, Twain responded by calling back. She even matched the intervals between each call the researchers made. Professor McCowan told the Business Insider website that her research could make it easier to talk to aliens. She said, "There are diverse intelligences on this planet. By studying them, we can better understand what an alien intelligence might be like, because they are not going to be exactly like ours."
2024 to be biggest ever year for voting in elections. The year 2024 will be the biggest for elections. Around 2 billion people in 64 countries and the European Union will vote this year. That is half the global population. The elections will bring big changes for many people. Voters in the world's 4 largest electoral blocs, the EU, India, Indonesia and the USA, will vote. For much of the year, eyes will be on the US. There will be a repeat of the 2020 election if Donald Trump runs again. Journalists worry if elections will be free and fair. Bloomberg.com asked a question that is on many people's lips. Will 2024 be the year fake news destroys democracy? Artificial intelligence will be used to change the way people vote. Bloomberg said there will be a storm of disinformation unlike anything the world has ever seen. Fact-checkers will have to work extra hard to reduce the number of fake news stories on social media.
2024 to be biggest ever year for voting in elections. The year 2024 will be the biggest ever year for voting. National elections will take place in around 64 countries, as well as in the European Union. An estimated 2 billion people, almost half the global population, could vote at some time this year. The results of these polls will bring big changes for the future of many people. Voters in the world's 4 largest electoral blocs, the EU, India, Indonesia, and the USA, will be casting their votes. One of the first contests will be in Taiwan on January the 13th. For much of the year, eyes will be focused on events in the U.S. In November, there will be a repeat of the 2020 election if Donald Trump runs for president again. Journalists are worried about how free and fair many elections will be. The website Bloomberg.com has already posed a question that is on the lips of many people. It asked, "Will 2024 be the year fake news destroys democracy?" Bloomberg said bad actors will use artificial intelligence to change the way people vote via phony news articles. It said there will be a storm of disinformation and digital manipulation unlike anything the world has ever seen. It added that disinformation has already begun to spread, and that this gets harder to spot as fake with every passing month. Fact checkers will have to work extra hard to reduce the number of AI-based posts on social media.
Muggers now targeting luxury winter coats. A series of muggings in cities worldwide has seen people robbed of expensive coats. In recent weeks, people have had their coats stolen at knife point. A man in the UK was slashed across his face when thieves mugged him for his jacket. Criminals are targeting coats that cost as much as $2,200. A criminologist in the UK warned that the muggings were the start of a new luxury crime trend. He said the thefts were worrying. The criminologist warned people wearing brand coats to be careful. He said, "Be aware of your surroundings. You have to be vigilant for opportunists who might try to steal your coat." He added that thieves are changing from stealing watches to coats. A London Transport spokesperson said the muggings were a real concern. She said they have a huge impact on the safety of young people and that the crimes were frightening.
Muggers now targeting luxury winter coats. There has been a spate of muggings in cities across the globe as muggers are focusing on a new item to steal: luxury coats. In recent weeks, people in London, Washington, D.C., and other metropolitan areas have been robbed of their coats at knife point. One man in Birmingham in the UK was slashed across his face as thieves made off with his jacket. Criminals are targeting coats that cost as much as $2,200 each. As well as literally stealing the coats off people's backs, thieves are breaking into people's vehicles. Professor David Wilson, a criminologist at Birmingham City University, warned that the muggings were the start of a new luxury crime trend. He said the thefts were worrying. Professor Wilson warned those with high-end winter jackets to be careful. He said, "I would tell anyone wearing Canada Goose branded jackets to be careful and be aware of your surroundings and who is around you. You have to be vigilant for opportunists who might try to steal them." He added that thieves used to target Rolex watches which go for thousands of pounds and then sell them online. A London Transport spokesperson said, "Canada Goose coats are targeted for robbery. It's a real concern to us because it really impacts the safety of young people on the network." She added that this acquisitive crime was very concerning, intimidating, and frightening.
Love is a drug called dopamine, say scientists. Writers have long claimed that love is a drug. Scientists have gone a step further to prove this. They did tests on the relationships of prairie voles. Different pairs of voles were tested for levels of dopamine, which plays a role in our seeking pleasure. The researchers said the voles released a lot of dopamine when they were with their established partner. Parts of the voles' brains lit up like a glow stick when they saw their mates. The study shows how complex human relationships are. It says dopamine is released when we fall in love. A researcher said, "Our entire social world is defined by different degrees of selective desire to interact with people, whether it's your romantic partner or your close friends." She added, "Certain people leave a unique chemical imprint on our brain." Research also suggests that women get over breakups faster than men.
Love is a drug called dopamine, says scientists. Writers of novels and songs have for centuries claimed that love is a drug. Scientists have now gone a step further to prove this assertion. They conducted tests on the romantic relationships among prairie voles. Different pairs of the mouse-like rodents were tested for levels of dopamine, a neurotransmitter that plays a role in our seeking pleasure and a craving for addictive things. It can provide an intense feeling of reward. The researchers found that voles released large amounts of dopamine when they were physically with their established partner. Researcher Dr. Zoe Donaldson said, "Parts of the vole's brain lit up like a glow stick when they were reunited with their mates, and dimmed when with unknown voles." The researchers said their studies helped to explain much about the complexities of human relationships. They say dopamine in our brains plays a key part when falling in love, and in the grief experience when breaking up with a partner. Dr. Donaldson said, "As humans, our entire social world is basically defined by different degrees of selective desire to interact with different people, whether it's your romantic partner or your close friends." She added, "This research suggests that certain people leave a unique chemical imprint on our brain that drives us to maintain these bonds over time." Research also suggests that women get over a breakup and fall out of love faster than men.
Prince's Purple Rain movie to become a musical. The movie Purple Rain will become a New York musical. The film comes from the album Purple Rain made by Prince. He also starred in it. The producers of the new musical called the movie legendary. It took the world by storm in 1984. They added that the musical was a fitting tribute to honor Prince and his legacy. They said, "We can't wait for a new generation to discover Purple Rain and to experience its power." Purple Rain won an Oscar for Best Original Song Score. Critics say it is one of the greatest musical films. It spent 24 weeks at #1 in the USA Music Chart. The movie is about a singer and guitarist who wanted to be famous. It shows his home life, his battles with his musical rivals, and a new romance. Prince died in 2016. He sold over 100 million records worldwide. He is one of the best-selling music artists ever.
Prince's Purple Rain movie to become a musical. The 1984 movie Purple Rain is going to be made into a musical on Broadway, New York. The film was based on the album of the same name made by the artist Prince. He also starred in it. This should encourage people to go see the musical version. The producers of the new musical are excited about their project. They said, "It's been 40 years since Prince's legendary film took the world by storm. We can't think of a more fitting tribute to honor Prince and his legacy than with this stage adaptation of the beloved story." They added, "We can't wait for a new generation to discover Purple Rain and to experience its power once again, this time live." Purple Rain, the movie, won an Academy Award for Best Original Song Score. Many critics believe Purple Rain is one of the greatest musical films. Purple Rain, the album, spent 24 consecutive weeks at number 1 in the USA's Billboard 200 music chart. It spent a total of 167 weeks on that chart. It contains the smash hit, When Doves Cry. The movie is about an aspiring singer and guitarist who was trying to become famous. The story shows his complicated home life, his battles with his musical rivals, and a new romance. Prince died in 2016 from an overdose of painkiller drugs. He sold over 100 million records worldwide. This makes him one of the best-selling music artists of all time.
World will see first trillionaire in next 10 years. A quiz show asked, who wants to be a millionaire? $1 million was the goal of the super-rich. Now it is $1 billion. The charity Oxfam said that in the next 10 years the world will have its first trillionaire. A trillion is a 1, followed by 12 zeros. It is 1 million million. Oxfam said the wealth gap between the rich and poor is growing. It added that although there will be a trillionaire in a decade, fighting poverty will take 200 years. Oxfam said the world's 5 richest people have doubled their wealth since 2020. It added, on the other hand, almost 5 billion people have become poorer. Tesla CEO Elon Musk is the world's richest man. He is worth $250 billion. The AP news agency said a trillionaire would have the same value as oil-rich Saudi Arabia. Oxfam said the world will see a decade of division. It wants public action to reduce the wealth gap.
World will see its first trillionaire in the next 10 years. A famous song and a quiz show ask, who wants to be a millionaire? For decades, having $1 million was the goal of the super rich. Now, the goal is $1 billion. The anti-poverty charity Oxfam has just issued a report that says in the next 10 years, the world will have its first trillionaire. A trillion is a huge number and an unbelievable amount of money. It is a 1 followed by 12 zeros. A trillion is equal to 1 million million. The charity said the wealth gap between the rich and poor is growing. It said the gap has been supercharged since the coronavirus pandemic. It added, we will have a trillionaire within a decade, whereas to fight poverty, we need more than 200 years. Oxfam spoke about the inequality at the World Economic Forum's annual meeting. As an example, it said the world's 5 richest people have seen their wealth increase by 114% since 2020. A charity spokesperson said the top 5 billionaires have doubled their wealth. On the other hand, almost 5 billion people have become poorer. Tesla CEO Elon Musk is the richest man on the planet. He has a personal fortune of just under $250 billion. The AP news agency said, if someone does reach that $1 trillion milestone, he or she would have the same value as oil-rich Saudi Arabia. Oxfam said the world is now at the start of a decade of division. It called for a new era of public action to reduce the wealth gap.
Deadly fire ants spreading across Australia. Australia's nature is under threat from one of the world's most invasive species, the red fire ant. The tiny ant comes from South America, but has spread worldwide. It causes huge damage to plants and kills native insects and animals, including livestock. The ant's venomous sting can cause allergic reactions in humans. It can be deadly. The government called the ants a super pest, which causes serious environmental harm. Red fire ants have been in Australia since 2001. Australia's Invasive Species Council, ISC, says the ants are spreading because of recent floods. The ISC said, fire ants are more active before or after rainfall and can form large floating rafts, which move with water currents to establish footholds in new areas. It warned that the ants will reach every corner of Australia if the current outbreak is not controlled.
Deadly fire ants spreading across Australia. Australia's unique ecosystems are under threat from an invasive and deadly species, the red fire ant. The tiny ant is native to South America, but has spread across the globe over the past century. It is one of the world's most invasive creatures. It causes extensive damage to crops and agricultural land. It also kills large numbers of indigenous insects and other animals, including livestock. The ant's painful and venomous sting can cause severe allergic reactions in humans. It can also cause fatal anaphylactic shock. A spokeswoman for the Minister for Agriculture called the fire ants a terrible invasive superpest which cause serious social, economic, and environmental harm. Red fire ants were first detected in Australia in 2001. They have largely been contained within the state of Queensland since then. However, Australia's Invasive Species Council, ISC, says the ants are spreading across the country on floodwaters. They are clinging to each other in their tens of thousands to form rafts on the stormwater. An ISC statement said, "Fire ants are more active before or after rainfall and can form large floating rafts which move with water currents to establish footholds in new areas." It added, "Our teams are focused on limiting further spread." The ISC warned that the fire ants will reach every corner of Australia if the current outbreak is not kept in check.
YouTuber Mr. Beast earns $250,000 from video on X. Mr. Beast, the most followed YouTuber, has made $250,000 from a video he put on X. He wanted to test how much money he could make on X. His video has had around 157 million views. There are more views every day. The video is called $1 Car versus $100 Million Car. Mr. Beast said many advertisers bought ads on his video. He told his 26.6 million followers on X that he would give the $250,000 away. 12 lucky followers will each receive $20,000. At high school, Mr. Beast wanted to know how YouTube videos became so popular, why they went viral. For 5 years, he studied YouTube's algorithm. He said, "I woke up, I would Uber Eats food, and then I would sit on my computer all day just studying stuff non-stop." Mr. Beast is now a successful businessman, environmentalist, and influencer. He has won many awards for his videos and for his charity work.
YouTuber Mr. Beast earns $250,000 from video on X. Mr. Beast, the most followed YouTuber, has earned more than $250,000 from a video he uploaded to X, formerly known as Twitter. The popular YouTuber said the video was to test how much money he could make on X. He wanted to compare his earnings on that platform to what his videos make on YouTube. His video currently has around 157 million views, and that number is rising. The video is called $1 Car versus $100 Million Car. It compares luxury cars. He said advertisers saw the attention it was getting and bought ads on it. Mr. Beast told his 26.6 million followers on X that he would give the $250,000 away. That means 12, possibly more, lucky followers will each receive $20,000. Mr. Beast's real name is James Stephen Donaldson. He was born in 1988 in Kansas in the USA. At high school, he developed an interest in working out why videos on YouTube became so popular. He wanted to know why they went viral. He told the Rolling Stone magazine, "There's a 5-year point in my life where I was just relentlessly, unhealthily obsessed with studying virality. Studying the YouTube algorithm. I woke up, I would Uber Eats food, and then I would sit on my computer all day just studying stuff nonstop. Mr. Beast is now a phenomenally influential and successful businessman, environmentalist, online personality, and philanthropist. He has won numerous awards for his videos and charity work.
Closing toilet seat lids may not stop spread of germs. A recent study says putting the toilet lid down may not stop the spread of germs. Researchers did research on the aerial activity of germs after a toilet is flushed. The researchers said there was little difference in how germs spread, regardless of whether the lid was up or down. A researcher said, "All that air when you flush goes somewhere, and it carries the viruses that are in the toilet bowl out of it." He said a flush spreads germs to nearby areas. Researchers tested the spread of harmless germs in 2 bathrooms. They flushed one toilet with the lid up and another with the lid down. They swabbed the surfaces in the toilet, but found no big differences in the quantity of germs in the 2 bathrooms. They said their results show that putting the lid down before flushing does not cut the risk of spreading germs. They recommended disinfecting all surfaces after flushing to reduce germs.
Closing toilet seat lids may not stop spread of germs. Many people believe that putting the toilet seat lid down helps to prevent the spread of dangerous germs and viruses. A recent study pretty much dispels this supposition. A team of microbiologists from the University of Arizona conducted research on the aerial activity of viral particles after a toilet is flushed. The scientists determined that there is little difference in the spread of germs, regardless of whether the lid is up or down. Microbiologist Dr. Charles Gerba has been studying laboratory pathogens for nearly 5 decades. He said, "All that air when you flush goes somewhere, and it carries the viruses that are in the toilet bowl out of it." He said, "A flush forces bacteria out from under the lid and contaminates nearby areas." The researchers tested the spread of a test virus in 2 bathrooms after a flush. The virus was one not able to infect humans. They flushed one bowl with the lid up and another with the lid down. After a minute, they used a sponge to swab the surfaces in the toilet. They concluded that there was no significant statistical differences in the quantities of the virus in the 2 bathrooms. They added that the results demonstrate that closing the toilet lid prior to flushing does not mitigate the risk of contaminating bathroom surfaces, and that disinfection of all restroom surfaces may be necessary after flushing or after toilet brush use to cut the spread of germs. They also said it was important to disinfect the water in the bowl.
French farmers cut off Paris with tractors. French farmers are angry. They are blocking roads around Paris. Their anger is because it is becoming more difficult to live. Energy, food, and fertilizer are becoming more expensive. Farmers are also angry because the government is not protecting them from cheaper food coming from Eastern Europe. Finally, they are angry with European Union climate decisions that are adding to paperwork and the costs of doing business. Farmers' tractors stopped traffic going in and out of Paris. They also piled smelly animal waste outside government offices. One farmer said, "We've come to defend French agriculture." Another farmer said, "Parisians are going to be hungry. The goal is to starve Parisians." Farmers carried messages that said, "The end of us would mean famine for you." A farmers' union said the government must find a solution and a way out of the crisis.
French farmers cut off Paris with tractors. French farmers are angry with their government. They are blocking roads around France's capital city of Paris. There are many reasons for the farmers' anger. It is becoming more difficult for them to survive. Inflation in France is increasing because of high energy prices. This is making food more expensive for farmers to produce. The war in Ukraine is causing higher prices, especially for fertilizers. The farmers are also angry because the government is not protecting them from cheaper food coming from other countries, especially Eastern Europe. Finally, they are furious with European Union climate measures, which are adding to red tape and the cost of doing business. The farmers blocked major highways around Paris. They parked their tractors on main roads to stop traffic going in and out of the city. They also dumped smelly agricultural waste outside government offices. Farmer Christophe Rossignol told the Associated Press news agency, "We've come to defend French agriculture. We go from crisis to crisis." Another farmer said, "Parisians are going to be hungry. The goal is to starve Parisians." A large farmers' union said, "Our objective is to put pressure on the government so that we can quickly find a solution for a way out of the crisis." Some tractors had messages on them that said, "No food without farmers," and "The end of us would mean famine for you."
Artificial light is dangerous for insects, say scientists. In prehistoric times, people asked why winged insects were attracted by fire. A saying describes this attraction as being like a moth to a flame. A recent study suggests insects do not head towards light because they like it. They are drawn to light because it guides their flight. Artificial light disorients nocturnal bugs like moths, often to fatal ends. The study said all our beliefs about why insects fly toward light might have been wrong. The scientists looked at insects flying around artificial lights in a rainforest. Insects usually use the moon to fly in straight lines. However, the artificial lights confused the bugs. They continuously flew around the lights in an erratic manner. Many insects fly to their deaths after being attracted by bug zappers. Artificial light also damages insects' abilities to find a mate, forage for food, and defend itself against predators.
Artificial light is dangerous for insects, say scientists. Everyone knows that light attracts insects. In prehistoric times, our ancestors questioned why winged insects buzzed around fire. An old saying describes this attraction as being like a moth to a flame. However, a recent study dispels the long-believed notion that insects head towards light because they like it. Biologists at Imperial College London have reported that insects are drawn to light because it helps with their orientation when in flight. The scientists said artificial light actually disorients nocturnal bugs like moths and mosquitoes, often to fatal ends. Jamie Theobald, co-author of the study, said all our speculations about why insects fly toward light might have been wrong. The scientists conducted their research in a rainforest in Costa Rica. They installed artificial lights under the canopy and observed the creatures' flying behavior. Insects usually navigate by the moon to fly in straight lines. However, around the artificial lights, the bugs became confused and made arcs and erratic patterns of flight. An entomologist said, "Natural skylight helps maintain proper flight. Artificial sources can produce continuous steering around the light and trap an insect. This explains why so many insects fly to their death into bug zappers. Artificial light adversely affects an insect's ability to find a mate, forage for food, and defend itself against predators."
Taylor Swift makes history with fourth Best Album win. The singer-songwriter Taylor Swift is the first artist to win Best Album at the Grammys 4 times. Miss Swift made history with her album Midnights. She has overtaken legends like Stevie Wonder. In her speech, she said, I would love to tell you that this is the best moment of my life, but I feel this happy when I finish a song or when I'm rehearsing with my dancers." She added, "All I want to do is this. I love it so much. It makes me so happy." Taylor Swift began writing songs professionally at the age of 14. In 2005, she became a country singer. Since then, she has experimented with many music styles. She has sold over 200 million records. A movie of her 2023 tour, Eras, is the best-selling concert film ever. She is also a huge influencer. Forbes magazine said she is one of the world's 100 most powerful women. Wikipedia called her a champion of artists' rights and women's issues.
Taylor Swift makes history with fourth Best Album win. Taylor Swift has made history at the 2024 Grammy Awards. The singer-songwriter superstar is the first artist to win Best Album of the Year 4 times. The Grammys are given for outstanding achievements in the music industry. By winning for the 4th time, Ms. Swift overtook music legends Frank Sinatra and Stevie Wonder. She won for her album Midnights. In her acceptance speech, she said, "I would love to tell you that this is the best moment of my life, but I feel this happy when I finish a song, or when I'm rehearsing with my dancers or my band, or getting ready to go to Tokyo to play a show." She added, "All I want to do is keep being able to do this. I love it so much. It makes me so happy." Taylor Swift was born in 1989. She began writing songs professionally at the age of 14. In 2005, she signed with Big Machine Records to become a country singer. Since then, she has branched out into a variety of music styles. She has moved from country to rock to electronic, synth-pop, and hip-hop. She is now the biggest music star in the world and has sold over 200 million records. A movie of her 2023 to 2024 concert tour, Eras, is the highest-grossing concert film ever. She is also a huge influencer of popular culture and is on Forbes magazine's list of the world's 100 most powerful women. Wikipedia describes Swift as being a philanthropist and an advocate for artists' rights and women's empowerment.